Well, hello there. Merry Christmas, great nephew. It's me, your great old Uncle Mark. And I thought I'd give you the basics of what Doctor Who is all about. I'm not going to go into a lot of history because this show has been around off and on for nearly 60 years. And it's one of the most beloved TV shows around the world. I think you'll be able to figure it out as you go along. And I hope you get as much of a kick out of it as I do. So, to begin with, Doctor Who is not his actual name. It's the title of the TV show and the universal question that should never be answered. The Doctor, as he calls himself, is a mysterious alien from the planet Gallifrey, home of the Time Lords, those powerful beings who watch and protect the universal laws of time and space. He himself is a Time Lord, but while all of his peers refuse to use their amazing knowledge and powers against the forces of evil throughout the cosmos, he chose to break the first law of time and intervene. So, he stole a TARDIS and began a life of exploration and a crusade against intergalactic villains and monsters. Ah, the TARDIS. It puts ships like the Millennium Falcon and the Enterprise to shame. The name stands for time and relative dimensions in space, which means when you travel with the Doctor, your next stop is everywhere. Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. In England, this used to be a police box that police would put the prisoner in, lock him up, and then they would call on this outside phone thing right here. And since 1963, it stopped being a phone booth. It is now a spaceship. Everybody knows when they see this, it's a TARDIS. It's the time and relative dimensions in space spaceship. So it kind of frustrates the British Museum to no end, but you know what? The heck with them. Now, some things you should know about this. It appears on the outside to be a blue police call box, which was a regular thing to see on the streets of England back in the 50s and 60s. That's because when the Doctor stole it, it was an old Type 40 TARDIS and was in the shop for repairs. It's actually able to change into anything it wants to, so it can blend in with its surroundings, thanks to a gadget called a chameleon circuit. But because it was one of many things that were to be fixed, when it landed on Earth in the 60s, it stayed in the shape of a police box. Also, just because the Doctor plans for a quick vacay on the Isle of Wight doesn't mean that's where he'll go. The TARDIS often has a mind of its own. And while it never seems to take him exactly where he wants to go, it always seems to take him where he needs to be. Also, the TARDIS seems small on the outside, but once you step through its doors, it's a vastly huge spaceship whose halls and corridors can't be explored in a single human lifetime. It's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. He's tried to explain it a couple of times to his traveling companions, that the TARDIS is dimensionally transcendental. When he gets blank stares from him, he usually throws up his hands and yells, "It's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Quit asking stupid questions." Now, for the Doctor himself. He's incalculably old. At last count, 1,500 years old. He has 2 hearts and a body temperature of just about 65 degrees. He possesses amazing mind powers and somewhat superior strength. And when he dies, as he's done so many times over the years, he doesn't actually die. He regenerates every molecule of his body, becoming an entirely new person. He's still the Doctor, he still has all of his memories, but he now has a new personality and attitude. It's something that his traveling companions find very confusing at times, but once he settles down, they get used to it. And his companions, the bravest souls anyone could ever hope for. Over the decades, they've been teachers, authors, warriors, reporters, mathematicians, princesses, physicians, even people who work mundane jobs like in a department store or a girl serving up French fries in a cafeteria. Anyone in the right place at the right time can meet the doctor and go on the journey of a lifetime. Now, the enemies of the doctor. I could spend a whole day talking about them. They're almost innumerable. There are so many. But I'll give you the main baddies. There's the Master, also a Time Lord from Gallifrey, but as evil as the Doctor is good. As children, they were once friends, growing up to be Time Lords in the Pridonian Academy. But during the ultimate test of their mental stamina, the Doctor barely survived, and the boy, soon to be called the Master, failed, and went completely mad. Now he's obsessed with taking over the universe, but first and foremost, he wants to destroy the Doctor once and for all. There are the weeping angels, aliens who disguise themselves as angelic statues you might see at a church or a cemetery, until you see one and you blink. At that moment, they pounce on you and send you back to a time where all your training for the path you chose is useless. They feed off the kinetic energy you used in your lifetime, and you're left in the past to literally live to death. There's also the Cybermen, half man, half machines, whose sole purpose is to convert all living beings to become like them. There's the Sontarans, the clone race of warriors bred for only one thing, war and conquest. Imagine Mr. Potato Head with a body like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the Doctor's greatest, most unstoppable enemies are the Daleks, the mutated remainders of the Cowed race. They travel about in nearly indestructible war machines, programmed for only one purpose, the extermination of all non-Dalek life forms. They cut a path of conquest and destruction unmatched in recorded history, and only one person has constantly stood in their way, the Doctor. When I was a little older than you are now, I started hearing about this show and wondered if there would be any chance I would get to see it. It took about another 10 years, but Aunt Dina and I first saw it on a tiny black and white TV set while we were camping with your great-grandma Bev and great-great-grandpa Charlie in Syracuse, New York, back in 1980. It took a few more years to finally get to see an entire series of it when it finally got on an Indianapolis station, and I became a gigantic fan. A year later, I found out about a fan club called the Hoosier Network and joined them. I eventually took the position of the boss after some of the founding members stepped down and I began running the club. HooNet took me on a lot of fantastic adventures where I got to meet many of the people you'll see in these videos. But above all that, what makes things great for me is introducing people, young and old, to the Doctor and his exploits. Yeah, the costumes and special effects in the early shows, like what you have, are a little fakey. But the stories and the actors in them will convince you that the rubbery creature with the zipper up its back is fully capable of conquering the universe. So what I've done is include some of the earliest of the episodes of the Fourth Doctor in your DVDs. There are 13 Doctors, by the way, and counting, played by the legendary Tom Baker. I think you're really going to like him and his friends Sarah Jane, Dr. Harry Sullivan, and the Brigadier of Unit. With the episode Robot, the Third Doctor has just returned to Unit from a deadly encounter with the giant spiders of Arachnos. But with a little help from an old mentor, his regeneration cycle has kicked in, and once again, before the astonished eyes of the Brigadier and Sarah Jane, a new Doctor begins to appear. Have at it, kid. From here on, you're on your own. The Doctor and you, in the TARDIS. Next stop, every.